Here's my Ork Stompa. I've just finished making it. In fact, I've just this minute finished putting the last touches to it. And so, as usual, I'm going to apologise for the paint marks on my hands. Anyway, yeah, I built and painted this quite quickly in the last week or so. I just want to show it to you and talk about the way I made it and some of the materials and techniques I used. The main body of the Stompa is a set of 3 polystyrene tiered cake dummies. So if you want to practice your icing, decorative cake icing, you can buy polystyrene cake shapes to practice on. And you can buy this set of 3 sort of wedding cake shape ones. And I think for about £6.50 from Amazon. And in there you get these, I think, are 3 inches tall. This one's 4 inches wide, 6 inches wide, and 8 inches wide. And stacked up, they are a remarkably close fit for the existing official Stompa size. So I used those, they're the main body of it. And that's really good. It's decently strong, especially when you cover it in cardboard and PVA and everything else. It's very light, and also it helped with the way that I made the riveted panels. Every single one of these panels with its rivets is basically a piece of cardboard that's glued on, soaked in PVA, and then attached with quilting pins, just stainless steel, like sewing pins, right? Just pushed right in. And they really help because they help the cardboard keep its shape without warping while the PVA glue is drying. And you end up with a little nub on the end that you can paint as a rivet. I've got quite sore fingers at the moment from pushing all these rivets into the polystyrene through the cardboard. I bought a pot of 700 pins. I thought that'll be more than enough. I used every single one. So this has at least 700 rivets on, and then I've got these other rivets which are actually made in a slightly different way. So let's talk about these sort of shoulder, I suppose it's shoulder sheds, why not? There were a few epic Ork vehicle kits in the 90s that had tiled roofs on. I really like them. What were they called? I think one was called the Brain Crusher. And this tiled roof effect, I think, is really sort of nice. And it sort of looks as though the Orks have literally taken a couple of storage sheds and winched them into position to house these great big weapons. And yeah, these 2 shed shapes, I bought a long time ago now a set of, I think, 5 house-shaped cardboard boxes. And they're made from craft, sort of brown craft paper, sort of papier-mâché sort of thing. And I think they're designed for decoupage or for painting, for craft purposes anyway. I think there was a set of 5 for maybe £7, something like that. And they're exactly the right shape and size for this. And so they've got a few extra little bits added on. And the rivets here were done with Gorilla brand gel super glue. That's the one with the green trim on the packet. It has to be gel. And you get a little, you squeeze it just enough that a tiny little bead pokes its way out the nozzle. You touch it very lightly onto the surface, and you do that over and over again, so you've got a string of these little bumps. And because it's gel super glue, it's not too liquid, it doesn't immediately run and lose its shape. It stays in these little irregular bumps, and then you can just spray it with super glue activator, which makes it go completely solid. You've effectively got then a row of little plastic bumps that you can paint as rivets. So yeah, what else to talk about? Okay, the guns, the Dakka. This is very important for a Stompa, of course. It's got at least 1 gun to represent everything that's on its data sheet here. We've got the main thing here. This is made from various bits from inside the caps of spray paint bottles and just various bits of plastic packaging. And if you sand everything vigorously, you can glue it together. Some plastics really don't like being glued together. Some of them, it's a bit of a bit of a pain in the neck to sort of get things to stick together properly, especially when that sort of slightly greasy plastic that often gets used in packaging. But if you sand everything first, they glue together much easier. And what you also get then is a slightly corroded surface, which is appropriate for orks. And this is the thing with scratch building anything for orks, is that a little bit of sort of gritty, corroded texture, a bit of wonkiness is fine, which makes it much easier when you're trying to make something. You don't have to be too precise, too neat, too clean. So little guns on the side here. These are just made from cake pop sticks. I got a big pack of those. I've used them for all sorts of things. This Gatling gun, minigun thing here, that's also made from cake pop sticks, lashed together with cable ties. I've used cable ties quite a lot on this project. The cables here as well, this one and these two here, they're both made from cake pop sticks as well. These ones are made from compressed paper that's slightly plasticized, I think, and they bend quite readily, especially if you dampen them slightly. You can bend them into sort of those realistic drooping cable shapes and then glue them into place. And because they're paper, they're porous, so they suck in the glue and they glue on really strongly with a bit of super glue at either end. This gun here, poking out of the little hatch there, is just the lid of a marker pen. This Canon thing here, that's also a felt tip pen lid, little cake pop stick poking out alongside it. These two here, near the shoulders, these are the cupolas from a couple of resin steam tanks. The steam tanks are made by Ironclad Miniatures, and I used the steam tanks and the as something else in my ork army. So I had these cupolas left over because I didn't use those in that when I made the two. Actually, I used them for the squig buggies, and I made new armaments on the top of those. So the cupolas were left over, and I think they go really nicely on there. And as luck would have it, the rivets are exactly the right size, so they blend in really nicely. This weapon on the side here, the pizza cutter of death. There we go. It's pretty simple. It's made from the sort of jagged toothed wheel here was just cut out from a yogurt pot lid. It's sandwiched between two MDF bases, I think 50mm bases. The arm is made from several layers of wooden plant labels, quite large ones, roughly sort of trimmed out to size, and the whole thing is clad in card and riveted. The card I've used mostly on, you can see the sort of the texture of it is quite sort of dappled. So the card I used most extensively on this was the sort of card they use for egg boxes and for other sort of fruit punnets and stuff, especially in the UK. I don't know whether they use them abroad quite so much. And the reverse of this stuff, because it's just made from mashed up paper pulp that's sort of just compressed together, has this really nice bumpy texture to it, where I think looks quite like sort of corroded or poorly made iron sheets. It's got that, maybe they're sort of hammered, or maybe it's just sort of poorly cast. I'm not much, I don't know how they make great big iron sheets, especially on ork planets, but I think it has the right sort of look to it. What's also good about that sort of cardboard, it doesn't have a grain. Most paper and card has a grain, so when you moisten it, it curls up in a particular direction. This stuff doesn't have a grain. It's like beer mats don't as well. So when you glue them, they don't warp. It's really useful. What else have we got to show you on here? In a few little places, like here and here, and you'll spot some other sort of places I've used it around the Stompa as well. I've used this very fine metal mesh, which just looks like mesh that the guys inside are looking out of. They sort of serve as windows. That stuff was taken from a a pan splatter cover. So it's like a disc of metal mesh you're supposed to put over your frying pan so it's not going to spit hot fat at you. So £1.49 for a great big sort of maybe 10-inch disc with a handle. It cuts very easily with a pair of scissors. It's very fine. A lot of people use similar stuff that's used for mending cars, but I think this is better. It's cheaper to buy a small amount of, because you know one pan cover is all you're ever going to need, and it, yeah, as I say, £1.49, really good. These ladders, they were MDF, I think, double O gauge ladders, maybe O gauge actually, I'm not sure. I think they look the right size. What else have we got? Let's have a look. Let's go around. Oh yeah, these horns as well. I sort of imagine those being made, they look like they're sort of hewn from stone. They're made from polymer clay, like Fimo. In a charity shop, I found this great big box of polymer clay that completely unopened, all the tools still in it, and maybe 24 little packs of polymer clay for £2. And so I just mixed two of them together and made some rough horn shapes, baked them in the oven, took them out, and when they were firm but still had a little bit of pliability to them, I cut away at them with a craft knife to get this sort of chipped rock look, I suppose. And I just glued them on. They've got pins in as well. When the Fimo is quite sort of soft still, you can drive a needle into it, and then that leaves a useful bit of metal sticking out of it. They've actually got 3 needles in them, and the 3 bits of metal you can then drive into the polystyrene and then glue it up. It's like pinning anything really, but without the drilling. Let's have a look around. What else we've got? So we've got more of that mesh here. There we go. Let me just angle this up again a little bit. So these chimneys, they're like sort of exhaust pipes, I suppose. There are 4 of those, and I bought a set of 4. I think they're advertised on Amazon as boba tea straws or milkshake straws somehow, but sometimes but you can see they're metal straws, reusable ones, and they're really wide as well. Mostly they're a bit thinner than this, but I think this was a better size. And you can see that I've used cable ties again just to sort of keep them all bunched together. This was another strength of the polystyrene, was that to get these down into this polystyrene layer here, I thought, okay, do I need to drill? Because these ones are bedded into this layer, these 2 are bedded into this layer. And instead of drilling into the polystyrene, I just heated these up a little bit on the hob. I just held one end, held it in the flame until it was fairly warm, you know, not glowing hot, red hot or anything like that, just fairly warm. And then it's hot enough that you can just push it through the polystyrene and it melts its way in. And if you're not too hot and you're not too fast, it just cools enough that when it gets to about there, it stops melting the polystyrene and it's solidly in place. So that's another sort of useful thing for the polystyrene. On the back here, we've got a couple of little doors and ladders. I wanted to have a plausible route for orks or grots to get from the ground level up to the top. So you see there's like a double layer of ladder here. So I imagine it being like one of those spring-loaded or weighted fire escape lifts, where if you pull down and put your weight on this goes all the way to the ground, and then it retracts up as soon as somebody's off it. And so they could come along these little platforms into that door, or climb up here. They could climb along here and get into a little door here, or along here, up this ladder, into this door. Maybe that's a door as well. It's got a little porthole. And then they could clamber around the front if they really wanted to. There's a ladder here, and then there's a hatch on the top. There we go. See that hatch. What else to show you? I put all these sort of like ork miniatures, particularly the old ones, have a round back sort of plate. That's a good place to put the sort of clan symbol, which I've done there. That's my clan symbol. What else? And I've also added a few little sort of symbols here and there, little what they sort of, are they runes? What do they call them? Glyphs, of course. There we go. I'm not sure. Perhaps this is to warn you that there's sort of electrical gubbins inside there and you'll quite like to get shocked. Little bits of checkerboard here and there. Little dog tooth. This one's a little sort of saw emblem on the saw arm. Makes sense. A tally there. That's probably the number of games I've lost. Little exploding thing. I've got these little, these are extra large push pins. I've just put in here and there just to sort of break it up, give it a bit of visual interest. Clan symbol again. This shape here is just, because I was using egg boxes so much, this is one of the parts of the egg box that holds the egg. You know, that's a slightly domed part, and you can cut that down. And that, again, it just gives it a little bit of plausibility. Imagine something going on in there. They've had to sort of put a cowling on, and perhaps it doesn't quite fit inside the... I just think it gives it a little bit of visual interest and storytelling, I suppose. I think this glyph is supposed to denote the boss or whatever. So this has got enough carrying capacity that a Gazkol Thraka can get inside it. So perhaps this is his personal vehicle. A bit more checkerboard. Here's a bomb dropping glyph. Around here, a sad face, which I think is supposed to indicate sort of, you know, grieving humans that you've trashed their planet or whatever. Not sure. Anyway, yeah, so there it is. There's my Stompa. Let's have a little look. So I'm really pleased with this. It was a very sort of fast project. I sort of got through it from momentum alone, really. It's just the sheer pleasure of building it, thinking up ideas for it, putting it together, painting it. It was just such a joy from start to finish. So I can't wait to use it on my army and see if it's as bad as everyone says it is for the points. I think it's 800 points. Possibly not the best use of 800 points, but it'll be fun. That's the main thing. Well, thanks for watching, and I shall be back in touch when I've got more to show you. Hopefully some more boys next. Maybe some Gorkanauts and Morkanauts. We'll see. Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.